Premier Doug Ford facing accusations of a blatant violation of the constitutional rights of thousands of school board employees tonight.
But he was pressing ahead with legislation to block a strike by the school workers as the government called a very special early morning session of the legislature. Al Sweeney has the latest on the confrontation between the Canadian Union of Public Employees and Premier Ford.
Long before the sun came up, the Ontario legislature was holding a highly unusual sitting at 5 o'clock in the morning.
We are now just 72 hours away from a strike that will impact virtually every student across Ontario.
With the government saying it needs extra time to pass legislation to prevent a strike by 55,000 CUPE education support workers on Friday, and forced to defend its actions.
Why does the government have such a hard time recognizing the important role education workers play in our schools?
That's what this is about. It isn't about the kids. And if anybody thinks it is, they're wrong. This is about busting the unions.
Bill that takes a chainsaw to the charter rights of education workers.
The Premier was fighting back.
I want to be clear. We will never, ever waver from our position that students remain in the class, catching up with their learning, surrounded by friends with a full school experience, including extracurricular activities.
Fix the mess you're making today. Will the Premier speak up and stop this bill?
We differentiate between labor and labor leadership. I think the labor needs to find new labor leadership.
In an interview with Trending Now on CHCH, Education Minister Stephen Lecce left open the possibility that school workers could face massive fines of $4,000 a day if they strike on Friday.
Well, back to work legislation always includes penalty clauses. That's in the legislation for a reason, to create a strong deterrence from violating the law. And I think many people in this province, many parents in this province believe that enough is enough with the constant strikes of this province. These kids deserve to be learning.
But the Premier is coming under intense criticism for his use of the constitutional notwithstanding clause, allowing the government to impose a collective agreement on education workers and overrule their constitutional right to negotiate. Prime Minister Trudeau spoke out, saying this suspension of people's rights is something that you should do only in the most exceptional circumstances, and calling this an overuse of the notwithstanding clause to suspend people's rights and freedoms. Political science professor Peter Grafe says Ford's use of the notwithstanding clause may go beyond the intention behind the clause of allowing governments to manage rights that have to be respected.
It doesn't seem like the government is really trying to balance the loss of people's freedom of association that this involves with any other kind of constitutional principle. It's really about trying to solve a labor dispute in a manner that suits the government of the day without negotiation through collective bargaining.
The Liberals of Queen's Park say the government has been working on this for weeks and never intended to negotiate.
This piece of legislation that we saw, it didn't happen over the weekend.
As it stands, school boards are taking different approaches to a possible strike on Friday. The Hamilton Wentworth District School Board says its schools will remain open. The Hamilton Catholic Board says if there's a strike, its schools will close. The Halton District School Board says schools will be open, but that could change. Halton Catholic District School Board says if there's a strike, all of its schools will be closed on Friday. The Niagara District School Board says it's watching developments. The Grand Erie School Board says if there's a strike, its schools will close, but remote learning will continue. So, of course, parents will want to watch school board websites and social media to see if things change as the situation develops. CUPE and the government still have 2 days to negotiate a settlement before the strike on Friday. We haven't had any indication of whether there was any progress in negotiations today.